Throughout history, currencies have collapsed. The German mark became worthless in 1923. Zimbabwe's dollar died in 2008. Venezuela's bolivar is currently disintegrating. When money fails, when the paper in your wallet or the numbers in your account lose meaning, something primal happens. Society doesn't end. Life continues, but it transforms. The question isn't whether money will fail. History tells us all currencies eventually do. The question is, what survives? What holds value when value itself is redefined? Skills survive. When money fails, the ability to do becomes worth more than the ability to buy. The plumber, the electrician, the carpenter, these people don't lose their wealth when currency collapses. They carry their value in their hands. A doctor doesn't need money to be valuable. Someone with a broken leg doesn't care about your bank account. They care if you can set the bone. During the Argentine economic crisis of 1999-2002, professionals who'd spent careers in offices found themselves worthless. Meanwhile, people who could fix things, grow things, or make things became the new wealthy class. Not wealthy in money, wealthy in relevance. Skills are inflation-proof. They're collapse-proof. You can't devalue someone's ability to purify water, repair an engine, or deliver a baby. These capabilities exist independent of any economic system. They're pre-monetary value, the kind of value that existed before we invented currency and will exist after our current version dies. Relationships survive. Money is a system of exchange between strangers. When it fails, we return to older systems of exchange: trust, reciprocity, and relationship. Who you know becomes exponentially more important than what you have. Your neighbor who grows vegetables, your cousin who hunts, your friend who can weld. These relationships become your real wealth. Communities with strong social bonds survive currency collapse better than wealthy areas with isolated individuals. In Greece, during their recent economic crisis, rural villages with tight communities fared better than wealthy Athens neighborhoods. Why? Because in the village, people knew each other. They shared. They had networks of mutual obligation that existed outside the monetary system. Family survives. The family unit becomes an economic entity again, like it was for most of human history. Multiple generations under one roof isn't a failure. It's a strategy. Your grandmother's knowledge, your uncle's truck, your sister's medical training, these become pooled resources. Reputation survives. When you can't enforce contracts with courts and lawyers, your word becomes your bond. Someone known as reliable, honest, and fair can operate in a failed economy. Someone known as a cheat cannot. Your reputation becomes currency itself. Land and tangible assets survive. You can inflate currency. You cannot inflate land. A piece of property that can grow food, catch water, or provide shelter retains value regardless of what happens to paper money. This is why, throughout every hyperinflation in history, those who owned real assets survived while those who held cash were destroyed. Tools survive. A good knife, a working vehicle, a solar panel, seeds, livestock, these things have inherent utility. They don't derive value from a government's promise or a bank's stability. They're valuable because they do something. Precious metals survive not because they're money, but because they're universally recognized stores of value. For 5,000 years across every culture, gold and silver have been valued. When local currency fails, people return to these ancient standards. But tangible assets go beyond the traditional. Antibiotics, batteries, water filters, ammunition, anything that's useful and can't be quickly produced becomes a form of wealth. During currency collapses, these items often become informal currencies themselves. Knowledge survives. When money fails, Google doesn't help you if there's no electricity. Your university degree might mean nothing. But practical knowledge, the kind stored in your head, becomes invaluable. How to preserve food, which plants are edible, how to treat infections without hospitals, how to build a fire, navigate without GPS, defend yourself, negotiate, lead. This isn't theoretical knowledge, it's operational knowledge, the kind that keeps you alive. Books survive, physical books. The people who hoarded libraries while others bought stocks find themselves holding something priceless, preserved knowledge that exists independent of power grids and internet servers. Cultural knowledge survives. How to organize communities, resolve disputes, create governance without institutional authority. Indigenous peoples who maintained traditional knowledge through colonization understood this. The knowledge in the mind and in the culture is the only thing that can't be taken. Values and purpose survive. This is the deepest answer. When money fails, the things we pretended were important, status symbols, luxury goods, impressive titles, evaporate. What remains is what was always important: meaning, purpose, and values. People survive who have reasons to survive beyond accumulation. Parents protecting children, communities bound by shared belief, individuals driven by purpose larger than profit. Viktor Frankl survived Nazi concentration camps, the ultimate collapsed economy, by observing that those who had meaning survived, while those who lived only for comfort perished quickly. When external structures fail, internal structures determine survival. Integrity survives. When there's no law enforcement, when contracts are unenforceable, when society's rules break down, personal ethics become everything. The person who maintains their humanity when there's no reward for doing so, that person builds trust, attracts allies, and creates stability in chaos. Faith survives. Whether religious faith or faith in humanity, in recovery, in the future, this orientation toward hope and transcendence carries people through periods when material reality offers little comfort. Adaptability survives. More than any specific asset or skill, the capacity to adapt survives. The people who can't imagine life different from how it is now are the most vulnerable to collapse. The people who can pivot, who can learn new skills, who can find opportunity in chaos, who can let go of old identities and forge new ones. These people survive. Resilience isn't about being strong enough to prevent breaking. It's about being flexible enough to bend without shattering. When money fails, the economic structures we built our lives around break. Those who've built their identity, their self-worth, and their entire existence on those structures break with them. But those who understand that they're not their job title, not their bank balance, not their portfolio, they survive. They adapt. They rebuild. Community structures survive. Informal economies emerge immediately when formal economies fail. Barter systems, mutual aid networks, alternative currencies, gift economies. Humans are creative in finding ways to organize resource distribution. Local governance survives and often becomes stronger. When national governments can't maintain currency value, local communities create their own systems. Town councils, neighborhood associations, cooperative networks, these fill the vacuum. What survives is humanity's fundamental need to organize, to cooperate, to create systems. The specific system of fiat currency is recent and fragile. The human drive to build communities is ancient and resilient. Conclusion: when money fails, what survives is everything that existed before money: skills, relationships, land, knowledge, values, community, adaptability. These are the foundations beneath the foundation. They're what money was invented to facilitate, but they don't require money to exist. The modern world has made a dangerous error, confusing money with value itself. Money is just a tool for exchanging value. When the tool breaks, the value doesn't disappear. It just requires different forms of exchange. What survives when money fails is what should never have been forgotten in the first place: that wealth isn't what you have, it's what you can do, who you know, what you know, and who you are. Prepare for currency failure not by hoarding cash, but by building skills, relationships, and character. These are the only things that can't be inflated away, taxed away, or stolen. They're the permanent wealth that exists independent of any economic system. When money fails, and it will, these are what remain, and these are what always truly mattered.